just started it. Justin, let me make you co-host so you can manage the waiting room,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Um, okay. Um, so Quincy, um, Councilmember Gray Tanaka, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about the topic?
Sure. I'm just an engineer here in Palo Alto, and I guess this particular situation has come to my attention because of the availability of fiber within Palo Alto. I did a little bit of light reading, and I understand that we've got a lot of fiber actually built out, but it doesn't seem to be available to a lot of companies directly yet, to my knowledge. Um, so this is a particular pain point for a lot of the engineers here in Palo Alto because of the recent COVID-19 crisis and how that has affected the traffic that is going to and from the internet nodes in our neighborhoods. And I kind of wanted to get an overview from you of kind of, where do we stand with this kind of fiber situation in Palo Alto? What, if any, discussions with industry are going on, and what are our blockers and a potential timeline if that's even something within scope?
Yeah. So I can tell you this. So in my own household, same situation, right? I mean, definitely. In fact, as we speak, I'm looking to get faster internet to my house as well because I like most other people, same situation, and and so I live in College Terrace. So here in College Terrace, which neighborhood are you in, by the way?
I'm right around East Meadow and
East Meadow.
Middlefield.
Okay, okay. I'm not sure about your neighborhood, but in my neighborhood, um, AT&T, the fastest it goes to my neighborhood, at least to my house, is 75 megabits per second. And and then I looked at Comcast. Comcast actually will go up to 1 gigabit, so up to 1,000 megabits per second, with 35 megabit upload. AT&T Max is 10 megabit upload. So, um, so I might be switching because of that. Um, Now, this is far better than what it was, but I'll give you some history. So the city has a dark fiber ring that it laid in the street, so it's in a lot of places. It goes down a lot, goes down the middle of a lot of streets, but or on the poles in the case of our neighborhood, but it doesn't go to the last mile, right? So it doesn't go to people's individual house. And a few years ago, there was an idea of trying to build a citywide fiber network, not just a backbone, but something that actually went to each of the individual premises, right? Either commercial or residential. And in fact, there was a very successful pilot that happened. Um, but you can probably remember at the time. I'm not sure when you moved here to our city, but you might have heard like Google Fiber. So Google Fiber was gonna, and there was all these cities that said, oh, like come to our city. And in fact, I see the Google Fiber truck actually drive past my house to Stanford, just a few blocks away. Uh, and so it almost made me kind of jealous. But um, so there was a kind of a time of doing municipal Wi-Fi or perhaps or not Wi-Fi, a fiber or using Google Fiber. Um, but I think it's been a long time, and if you look at how much we pay for our internet service and how fast it is compared to some other countries, it's I think Palo Alto was one of the first cities that actually had a very, very fast network. But over the years, of the past decades, right, certainly we've been overtaken. Like I'm not sure you know like Seoul. It's like you look at Seoul, Korea, and like very fast and shit at a very low price, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I've been advocating for is this idea called open access, which is maybe in exchange. So open access is if you look at some other countries and you wonder why do they have such fast internet and such low prices, because they have a lot of competition, right? Um, and so what happens is the first person that goes in has to open access of their line to other people. So there's competition for it. In exchange for opening the line to other people is either mandated, but just usually some sort of incentive that there would be. So in our case, maybe if whoever does the last line, let's say for instance Comcast does a connection to my house, um, third parties have a right to bid on it at some sort of wholesale price. But in exchange, Comcast would get rights to connect to our dark fiber as an example, right? So there's some sort of incentive for them to get that, and that way you get some market competitions in areas that traditionally you don't get much competition, right? For instance, like it's not very economically efficient for everyone to lay their own fiber, but if people could share the fiber and then there's competition on providing the retail service of it, then um, then uh, you could get better speeds at lower prices, right?
Of
Um,
course.
so right now we have AT&T and Comcast, and thankfully there is at least some competition between them, but not as much as I would like to see. Um, so and then there is also talk of 5G, which theoretically could also do some of that too, right? So really, the way to get better service is to actually provide better, is to provide a level of competition. So for me, I think I'd love to hear your thoughts, but open access seems to have been what works in other cities or the other countries in terms of how to get faster internet at lower prices. But what Quincy, what kind of suggestions do you have?
Well, I actually don't really have too many suggestions. I just kind of want to know what the situation was with the fiber build out here in Palo Alto, especially with regards to that last mile thing you were talking about. Recently, we spoke with Comcast, and although fiber is offered, it would be something that we as a household would have to pay for. And that would be folded into our internet price, which kind of really makes it a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
However, that does mean that we would have access to our house of Comcast fiber basically forever. Um, and I guess what I want to know is like, do, you know, do we have an intention for Palo Alto to be building out this last mile to all the houses in Palo Alto? Is that something we intend to do? Um, is there any
Well,
blocker for it?
yeah, there's not a explicit plan to do that. I think that's a dream of the city, and I think the nice thing about that is it creates competition, right? It
Yeah.
means that, um, but the city itself is probably, we're not really a customer service. I mean, a lot of this internet is customer service. Of course, there's laying the fiber and having the equipment to light up the fibers and stuff like that. But a lot of it is customer service, and we're not necessarily organized that way. The city's not necessarily organized or very efficient at that kind of stuff. Although it did a pilot very successfully. So I think the way to get there is to make it really easy for a lot of competitors to provide this kind of service, give it incentives or some sort of open access mechanism that makes people want to make the investment. So like I'm thankful, like in my neighborhood, Comcast has made the investment, so it's not too hard for them to bring it to my house. Um, but like in other neighborhoods, it's hard, right? Or like for instance, AT&T doesn't have it here yet, right? They haven't made the investment yet here. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do we make it um, so that more uh,
More
companies,
companies are going to invest,
yeah,
right?
want to invest to provide this high speed internet, right? And I think gigabit Ethernet these days is not that fast, especially whenever watching Netflix and everyone's watching their own Netflix, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's not too hard to saturate a typical, like I have 75 megabits, right? And to me it seems kind of slow now, just because everyone's doing Zoom calls, right?
yeah, yeah. So I guess the big benefit of fiber is that it's symmetric, so your upload speed and download speed are both really high. So
Yeah,
even with all the Zoom calls, students going to school remotely, you're not going to have as much traffic as if you were on say copper wires and it was an asymmetric kind of upload download speed issue.
yeah,
Um, so I guess while I do understand that the city council, the city as a whole is not really kind of a customer service supposed to cater to specific residents or anything like that. What I would like to see is kind of getting this last mile done. Not necessarily just to I don't know how many years it's been since the pilot, but if
oh,
the
it's been
pilot
like
is
10 years. It's been a long time. Yeah, a
okay,
long
okay,
time.
so the pilot is clearly a highly successful situation where did the city build the last mile for the pilot or
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we didn't necessarily do it ourselves, but we hired contractors that did it. Um,
right, right.
and this is before my time. This is before I was on city council. So this is a while back.
Right. So I was wondering if something like that could be done for all of Fall to it, in fact, actually. So rather than just relying on waiting for these internet companies to say like, oh, now we will go and build that fiber, rather just have Palo Alto as a city kind of have that uh, done for basically all of our residents citywide, and then now that forces this competition among the companies to kind of bid for that fiber, rather than kind of having a situation where these companies can kind of play chicken with each other and see like, hey, who's going to make the investment first, and then I can just bid on your investment, and then outcompete you because you've already paid for it, in which they're just going to pass the cost on to the customer.
Yeah, and maybe it does make sense for the city to do it, but then provide open access where it's like, other companies like Sonics or whoever
Yeah, exactly.
could be like they could buy it wholesale and then resell it to to consumers, right? And provide the service and all that stuff. Um,
Exactly.
I think really what like I think in Seoul, you can get like your choice of 20 different providers. Like for me, if I want to do 1 gigabit, I have one choice, Comcast. That's
Right.
it. No
Right.
choice, right? Comcast.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, so I think anything we can do to enable this competition is going to provide better service at better prices.
Hey,
Okay.
sorry to interrupt. We're running a bit over time, so we should probably wrap it up soon.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
sorry about Quincy. We're starting a little bit late here, but any last words, sir?
Yeah, I was just wondering what we could do as citizens to kind of move this thing forward, because as you said, in the past 10 years, we haven't seen too much progress here, right?
Yeah, I think before there was always like, oh yeah, Google will come in here and do it for free for us, right, or something like that. And now that's definitely not going to happen. Google's kind of shut down that program. So I think pushing for open access is the right thing to do. So if more people push it, more people write in saying, hey, let's try to get more competitors providing gigabit Ethernet. I think that's how it's going to happen. So I think write in, ask your friends and neighbors to write in. But this, and I think the good news about our fiber fund is that we actually make money on this right now, which is good, right? So
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
a lot of money, but we make some money on it. So it's a profitable business for us. And
Uh-huh.
so, I mean, but this is mainly just for commercial, not for residential.
Right. Right.
So, but basically, kind of
Encourage people to
creating,
write in.
yeah, creating people write in, and basically we want to make it so that it's as many competitors as possible want to compete for our gigabit Ethernet service.
Okay, and do you mean by writing into the city council?
City council, yeah.
Are there any particular members of the city council you would encourage me
No,
to
I mean,
talk to?
no, I think the city
Or should
council
I
in general.
send them all your way, or?
You can send it to my way, so you can send it to city council. But basically, I'm a huge fan of this stuff because I do believe that this is going to be a differentiating factor for our city. If we could have ubiquitous gigabit Ethernet throughout the whole city, I think that's
That's
huge.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, I think that's what made our city very special initially, is that we actually were one of the first to have maybe not gigabit Ethernet, but high-speed internet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I will definitely talk to my friends and family, encourage them to write in, and see what we can go do and go from there. Thank you so much for your time. Really do
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you
it.
so much. I appreciate your getting involved here.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.